Hi guys, thank you for being here. This is another episode of Another Day in Paradise. See how I started a little bit? Yeah, that's how I will keep it.
All right.
So, listen, let's see. We 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 had quite a few topics that we wanted to talk about, um, and I hate to say that we have topics because people think like, oh, we prepare topics, etc. Which we sometimes talk about a few things that would be cool to talk about, but we don't always prepare them.
Let's call them starting points.
Yes. All right, Reda. So, do you have a starting point?
I actually do.
All right.
All right.
I'm all ears.
Are you ready?
Yes, I was born ready. Go ahead.
So, just to put things,
In
to
perspective.
create a little storytelling here.
Sure.
This weekend, I've spent like not even the weekend, like this past week. It's the World Cup.
Yes, of course. Boy, do I
And
know.
I spent a lot of time with my parents, some uncles. Like had a lot of family time,
Mhm.
and it got me thinking about one of the subjects that we talked about, which is quite a serious subject.
Okay.
Because as you know, I'm in my early 30s.
Yes,
I'm the
you are.
youngest of my family.
Mm-hmm.
So if you calculate a bit, parents aren't getting any younger.
Yeah,
Right?
They are not for sure. Yeah.
And the other day we were talking about how basically the place that seniors would have in a society like Morocco that is in transition between like what's usually done culturally, which is like kids taking care of their parents, and the other side of things were more towards the European or American model, which is basically like elders living on their own or in
Yeah, like in retirement homes.
retirement homes as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I don't think we really have like in Morocco like a proper. We probably have a few, but it's not like something that's.
Well, that's a very good point. So I remember Hassan II, the previous king, said something very famously, and he said, "The day we will have retirement homes in Morocco, that means that we lost our culture and we lost who we are, our identity, because it's almost like shameful to have retirement homes." But we should start this
it's like
with
the
a little.
duty of the children to take
Yeah,
care
to take care of elders,
Mhm.
enough elders, and of like adults, young adults to take care of their children, and so on and so forth. We should start this with something quite interesting that sparked this conversation 2 days ago. We saw 3 days ago. We were leaving my apartment and not too far from my house. I don't want to say exactly where because you never know, but.
Yeah.
It might be that viewer that is watching us all the
That
time.
was quite an encounter.
Yeah, and I mentioned this a long time ago. I saw this old lady when I was leaving my apartment, and she was like, she felt like lonely, etc. And as soon as I closed my door, she was there, and I said, "Hi, how are you?" And she said, "Oh yeah, good. I'm your new neighbor. Who are you? Like, let's introduce ourselves." I said, "Oh great. Well, I'm Jawad, and I live right next door. And if you need anything, let me know. Blah blah blah. blah. I live here with my wife, etc." And she was like, "Okay, great, yeah, sure, sure." And she was very smiling. You know, she's like upbeat, and
Lovely lady.
yeah, she's quite charming. And then we went. I went on, and she said, "Yeah, I get a little bit bored. I'm just here alone, etc. I don't live with my children, etc." So for the sake of story, I just want to mention that I'm lucky enough to live in a great area. So this woman is not poor or underprivileged by any stretch of the imagination. She lives in a quite luxurious apartment. It's quite big. She's alone and she has help, like a house help. So she is she's okay. She's doing okay financially. I'm imagining her family is doing okay. And I told you the other day, if you remembered a long time ago, I said, well, you know what? Maybe I feel a little bit sad for her. Maybe I should one day just take her for a ride. She stays here all the time alone. And COVID has not been easy on anybody. And she's isolated even more because of her age and her not living with anybody besides the help that she has at home. So, and you said, yeah, I don't know if I would do that. You know, it's take a lot of risks because
Yeah, there is the risk of
because she's not master of her destiny. Like she probably doesn't have to ask for permission for her children, but she's not.
yeah.
Like she needs to tell people where she's going. It's almost like taking an underage, and you might
Yeah.
have the great intentions, but she's still underage and you're not, so it might look a little awkward. But anyways, and a couple days ago, we were both leaving the apartment to grab a coffee, and she was like at the door,
Yeah.
just peeking, and I thought she was expecting somebody to come back right now, but she was so desperately waiting for her maid. I'm sorry, if there if there is a more appropriate word for it, like house help or whatever.
Her aid.
Yeah, her aid. There you go. That's
Home aid. Oh,
yeah.
maybe this is where it comes from. Home aid, maid. Maybe
Oh, homemade.
like home aid,
Oh,
maid.
maybe. Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, all right. So
Yeah, but that was quite an encounter. As I said, like
But she was
she was
waiting.
waiting at her door, like and just waiting there, and we stumbled like she was the aide or maid wasn't anywhere close to coming.
exactly.
And,
That's what was sad.
and we found her there. Probably maybe she was there
For quite
for
some time.
some time.
And she said, "Well, I'm actually hungry." And
Yeah,
she
exactly.
she went back to the next town, which is not that far from here, but still like 30 minutes. And my aide she didn't come back all day or all afternoon at least. And I'm quite hungry. She left me here. She abandoned me here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I said, oh, like I didn't know how serious she was by saying like she was hungry. Like, are you just bored and you just wait for her, or are you like hungry, like
Yeah.
starving, almost passing out? And I
Probably
said, well,
a mix of both.
I said,
but,
yeah, it could be. I said, you can come to my house and we can, I can make you something or order you something or whatever you want. She said, yeah, thank you. That's nice. And then she told us, she said, no, that's okay. And then she said, like, do you live alone? I said, no, I'm with my wife and I have a young baby. You can come in, etc. And she said, and she started telling us about not leaving our parents alone. She said, do you
Yeah.
have parents? Do you have family? Like,
take care of them.
take care of them, make sure you visit them. They want to be with you. Like she said, my children are
Abroad.
successful.
Yeah.
Like she said, yeah, they are abroad and they are also successful. One of them is successful, very successful. She's a doctor abroad, and she offered her this apartment. I don't know if she's renting or she bought it for her. And I have children who are very successful, and I'm here alone waiting for the aide to come back because I've been alone all day and I'm starving. So,
And that encounter was full of life lessons. Like, first off, like money doesn't solve everything.
yeah,
Because she's
she's doing
well
okay
off,
money wise. Yeah.
on many levels, but she's still lonely.
Yeah.
And for children as well, like you can't solve that issue just by she needs taken care of. Let's just hire someone, because of course the help is there to help on everyday
Tasks.
struggles and everything, but like it's lacking that human connection.
Absolutely.
And it was quite touching, actually, when
That's
she
true.
was looking at us and telling us, like, take care of your parents, never, like...
Don't abandon them, pretty
Yeah,
much. That's what she
basically,
said. I
that's
mean,
what
she
she
was
said.
not upset or crying or anything. She was like pretty good spirits.
Yeah.
And, honestly, it was very touching. And she was like in good spirits, but still saying like, yeah, like you cannot throw money at something. Like you cannot just throw me in a very luxurious apartment and hire somebody who's supposed to help me with everything all day and just pretend like job is done. Like,
Yeah.
so going back to what you said in the beginning, so you think the solution, because we don't have like retirement homes in Morocco, and the ones that we have are related to churches and more religion and more meant for foreigners who live here. And we don't really have some. There was like a scandal like recently in France with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, basically they were beating up old people,
Yeah,
taking advantage of them in various ways, like really nasty stuff.
nasty, and it was so expensive, man. When I
Yeah.
heard the prices, the average price, like a regular price, is 6,000 euros a month, and they were telling us that it could go up to 12,000 euros a month for a single person.
That's crazy.
And they abandon them, they don't change them, they starve them, and they yell at them, they leave them in their diapers all day. It's like horrible. And when you complain, they say, well, if you don't like it, take your grandmother. And they say, oh no, I don't have a choice. And that's what infuriates me when I saw this documentary. I'm like, you don't have a choice. He said, one woman, she came to a show complaining about the big empire of retirement homes, and she said, well, I'm paying 6,000, I'm doing well off, and I thought my mother was taken care of, and we had to get her apartment ready to receive her because she needs help, like moving out of her bed and showering and doing this and doing that. So we are fixing her apartment. So she stayed in this retirement homes for a few months, and she said, yeah, but every time I'm like, yeah, I'm not happy. Like, you left my mother with the dirty clothes, dirty diapers. She's starving. She lost her teeth, etc. And you keep telling me, oh, she fell, and she broke her hips the first time, etc. And you left her with broken hips 3 days before I came to her rescue, and I took her to a hospital.
That's crazy.
It's horrible. And then she said, so this is horrible from their side. But she said, well, it's also, but I didn't have a choice. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't
That-
have a choice?
That's what they. That's the thing.
But what do you mean she didn't have a choice?
Well, I think if you put things in perspective, for us, I think from our culture and something like that's just
Doesn't fly.
unacceptable.
Unacceptable,
Like,
absolutely.
first off, before saying that, I would like to say that this is not a generality. Like, it's
Of course.
still an exception. Like, having
Absolutely.
those retirement homes. Having like really how would you call it, like it's
Upscale.
maltraitance, like
Yeah,
it's-
like the mistreatment. Yeah,
Yeah, mistreatment.
Yeah, absolutely.
and that's not a generality. Like, there's a
Of
lot
course.
of homes that are correct, but the thing of not having a choice is that it's kind of that thing where it's the easy solution, and it's the solution that kind of lets you, like, like, have peace of mind, saying, yeah, she has everything
Yeah.
she needs, like medical stuff and everything, but they tend to forget that the human contact and the love and that is more important. I was thinking
True.
about, like, the closest thing I have to a child is a dog,
Yeah,
which I love. Shout out.
dearly.
And I wouldn't leave him in a
If
in
he
a-
was
in a
treated
dog-
poorly, you would
in a
not.
dog retirement home, even if
Yeah.
he was treated right,
Mm.
like if he was fed, and all that, I would be like, yeah, but he still needs that love,
Yeah.
like, and that warmth of people and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
get that it's hard that people have 9 to 5s, sometimes even 9 to 9s, and that it's not always easy having a parent around, especially if your spouse or whatever doesn't get along, or etc. etc.
Yeah.
But still,
But I'm sorry, like,
you need to not forget that those people, like, they're your parents.
Yeah.
Like,
no. But listen, I understand. This is like an exception. To finish up on this exception, this woman, she every time she goes to see her mother, she's worse and worse by the day.
yeah.
And how could you let your mother stay there another second while you prepare her apartment? And
Mm.
she stayed there with broken ribs and broken hips, and they kept her screaming and crying for 3 days. When you go there, you take her to the hospital, and then she said, I didn't have a choice, so I had to take her back. You didn't have a choice? I
Come
would
on.
fucking kick my husband out of the house and put her in there while I fix the apartment. I would kick my children out of the house because they can
No,
go
like,
somebody
and
to,
anywhere, like even in the car,
dude,
is better than
it's better than
there.
there.
Like,
She's
it's
being
crazy.
like treated very, very poorly. This
Yeah.
is abuse at this point. And you said, and I was crying all the way to the hospital and crying all the way back to the retirement home. You should be like put to
should be
death. I'm
ashamed.
sorry. You should be put to
And
death.
put to
This
death.
is crazy. Like your
But
mother.
that is maybe a little bit extreme.
Listen, honestly,
but I get your point.
It's like so frustrating. And imagine, so you were crying when you were taking her back. Imagine your mother. It's like, oh
Yeah.
boy, here we go again. Like really, like this is horrible beyond words. Anyways, I think that's a very sad point. So going back to Morocco, and of course, like you said, which was the right way to put it, like it's an exception. I'm sure most retirement homes, they do an okay job, just like everybody. This is like
Yeah.
a bell curve. Like some extremes are they make it for nice documentaries on TV, but most people, they don't treat people very poorly. They just do an average job. But in Morocco, we don't have any. Do you think it's a good idea to have any retirement
Well,
homes?
I've had this talk personally with my parents because I lost now all my grandparents, unfortunately, and they all have more or less the same configuration, which they kept their homes. Of course, we would hire some people to take care of them, to help them in everyday life, but they still had their homes.
Yeah.
Which means they still had family come visit. Like at the very least, one of the children or one of the grandchildren, at least once a day, there's someone that's coming
Stops
in,
by,
and
yeah.
if not, like on weekends where like there's actually like real family gatherings. And I think that's kind of what's missing in retirement home is that there's not that kind of like welcoming ambiance. Like it's kind of like a morbid hotel.
Yeah.
You know, like you have your room, but you can't really like have family pop by. You know, like you need to schedule it. You don't have like full control. So when I was speaking to my parents, and I was like, I'm lucky enough to have parents that like to plan ahead and that are quite like self-aware of the situation, the fact that they're getting older and stuff. And we talked about like how would they see their lives like moving on and stuff. And basically the solution that they think would work for them is to have the same configuration as a retirement home, but like in a residence where they have their own homes, but they have aid.
Yeah. Like a group home, like a few homes in a
like
the same
but-
compound.
But you have your own space. You
Yeah.
can receive people whenever you want. Like there's no like visiting hours or
Yeah.
things like that. You just have like medical staff on site. You might have like services if you're a bit more fortunate to be able to afford them, like a driver that can take you to a place or things like that, and having homes that are designed, like bathrooms being designed to accommodate elderly people or handicapped people, because that's one of the things that comes with age as well.
True.
And personally, I think that solution would be kind of like the best of both worlds, because the problem with retirement homes is that it kind of cuts the ties that you have as well with families, whether it's in locations that are a bit remote or simply by rules that don't apply. You have a 9 to 5, visiting hours are until 6.
Yeah.
Like things like that, and it's not always easy. Like the woman that was saying, yeah, it's hard. I don't condone what she did or anything, but I guess it's not easy for anyone in these situations. So you need to accommodate and keep that relationship, encourage relationships to be alive. Like elderly doesn't mean that you need to eat soup and play bingo once a week. You
Yeah,
know?
no,
You
that's
can
true,
have like
that's true.
activities, a lot of stuff. And yeah, that
So
would be.
that would be a great solution. So I had the talk with my dad as well, and it
Mhm.
was way before we saw the scandal on
Same
those
here. Same here.
companies, and I talked to him and I said, a retirement home would be great. Actually, what do you think? Like, if we had, and I'd started to describe something like what you just described, like a compound with a few houses,
Mhm.
individual houses, like
Mhm.
small units, and just what you need, because you don't need the big units, etc., and a nice yard, and more like in a countryside, or maybe not too far from the city, but still, with the nature very much involved in their views and in their lives, etc. Something
Mhm.
calm, something green, something with like help, and like you said, like an assistant, maybe a driver on call that would be
Mhm.
able to take them here and there. Maybe like, of course, they wouldn't be able to do the cleaning and the household and the housework, etc.
Of
They would
course.
have that. They would have also security on site, which is
Which is
always
a
good.
big
Yeah,
thing as well,
security
because
on
they are
site.
easy targets in general.
Yeah, and like just something very nice. And I started describing this to him, and he said, "No, I don't want to go in a retirement home." And but I didn't develop my idea fully. And he just said, "Well, because those people, old people, they they are very dismissed because the help can just neglect them."
Mm.
And say, oh, Mrs. Smith, yeah, she's a little crazy. She said I didn't change her. I changed her. She just forgets Alzheimer. And it's very easy to blame them.
Yeah, and
And
even for the children, it's easier to believe the stuff
yeah,
and be like, okay, than
yeah. So,
actually
so,
going
so
after.
my dad said, my dad is a doctor, and he said, yeah, they are very often mistreated,
Mm-hmm.
and because parents don't really have a choice, and their back are to the wall, and they it's a desperate measure, etc. It's a tough one. So my grandmother lives with us, and she has been living with us for over, I think, around 20 years, maybe just a little bit more. So
Is that
for
like
the longest time,
the
my mom's mom.
okay? So basically, your mom's father passed away, right?
Yeah, my mom's father passed away in
So it was
Agadir, and
basically around that time that she came to live with you.
it was right after that time
Yeah.
because we
So
did not want to leave her there
that's
alone.
an interesting point because I think that these configurations of retirement homes and things like that are even more useful when a spouse, like one of the spouse, uh,
Passes
passes
away.
away, because it's not easy. Not usually they have their own homes.
Mm.
They have their own environments that they don't, and I understand it. They don't want like to
To
admit
leave.
to themselves that it's not the ideal environment for them because it's their homes.
Yeah.
That's where they live. They don't want to move. They don't want to have a new environment, etc., etc. But
Hmm.
when they are alone and it's hard to continue in an environment, very often it's the home that they had when they had children. So it's big
Yeah, yeah,
homes,
yeah. It's very sentimental
especially with
value. Yeah.
that generation had that kind of like thing that you need to have a big house. So
Mm.
it's usually like almost mansions,
Hmm.
and when you live there alone, it becomes very very dark, very very fast.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So so
So
so
please continue with
so
the.
so so the idea was, so my grandmother lives with us.
Mhm.
She's been living with us for a very long time, right after my grandfather died. They had a big house. She couldn't live there alone anymore.
الله يرحمهم.
Yeah, and it's just a very tough situation, because when they come here, and you're right, the cohabitation is not always easy,
Of course.
because there is a generation gap, because my mother is still my grandmother's daughter, so she still thinks, oh no, why did you do this, why did you do that, and my mom is not used to like being told what to do after 50.
You need to say the truth, but the elderly, not always easy to live with.
They are not. So that's a very good point. They are not always easy to live with, because they are having a hard time. They are sad, sometimes
And in
depressed.
Morocco, especially when usually like the mother of the husband with the wife
Oh,
and stuff
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of
The mother-in-law is she comes back, and now she's on your turf.
Exactly.
And it's like
no, and she's in her son's house.
exactly. So it's not always easy.
It's not always easy.
It's so a retirement home. revisit it, like in a modern way, exactly what you described, like with something. But in France, people, what's interesting is that those mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers, those elders, they have money saved with insurance, with social security, etc. So that's what helps them pay for it. It's not the children. Sometimes the children, they chip in, or
They
when they have
help
money,
out, but
etc.
yeah.
But it's very expensive in France, and the model that you just described would probably be very expensive as well.
Well,
It's
it's
not for everybody.
definitely a luxury that not everyone can afford, unfortunately. But I think it's the best solution, and unfortunately, in this world, most of the
Nothing is
best
free.
solutions cost money.
Yeah.
But I hope that by the time that will become a necessity, myself, my siblings, even my parents, because my parents still work, but hopefully we'll be in a situation where we can afford that and concentrate on what's important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's but I thought about what you, because we had this conversation about the ideal retirement home and like something modern, something more humane, something more like customized. Like it's the solution that would be for you. And we started crunching some numbers just roughly, and it's gonna add up to a lot of money. Not a lot of people would be able to afford it, but obviously, if you could, it's a no-brainer.
But like at the end of the day, you know what you just said in France, for instance, retirement homes already cost a lot of money.
True, but the social security there pays for it most of the
True,
times,
true.
which is not
Well,
the case here. Like
if
my dad
you,
did pretty good in his life, but I'm not sure he would be able to afford it. And you said, well, yeah, then he can sell one of his properties or whatever he has, his house, and move into that compound. And of course, he would just rent, because it wouldn't make sense to buy it, because you don't want to inherit it, give it to your children, and then it would be like a compound with old people and then children who
Exactly.
inherit it. So it would not make sense. So it would be just rental, and you could use up his money until it's done. And the life expectancy of people who would come to this center would be like, I don't know, maybe another 10, 15 years top. So it would make sense, like the math would work. But still, they would not want, I think Moroccans in general, and my parents more particularly, they would not want, they would feel bad like burning out their assets
ch-
and not leaving it behind for their
yeah, but
children.
that's another issue. That's a lot of that. Me personally, I have a big issue with.
Yeah.
Like, of course, I'm all for like leaving, because I imagine as a parent, I don't have children yet, but as a parent, I would like to live the best life possible to my children. But in the case of my parents, I always have these discussions where I'm like, you should enjoy life.
True.
You know, alhamdulillah,
Yes.
for English speakers, it's
Thank God. Thank you, Jesus, Allah, or whatever you are.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
All of me and my siblings have, especially compared to Moroccan standards, we have very good lives.
Yeah.
And especially compared to from where my parents started off, especially my father's family,
Yeah.
we have very, very comfortable lives. And anything that would come is extra, but it's not something that's gonna be that's a necessity. So between receiving, I don't know, like an apartment once that day comes, between that and having my parents live their last 20 years enjoying themselves, I think it's a no-brainer.
Of course, but would your parents accept it? Because you could try to convince them, but I don't know. Like I'm thinking, I'm a young father. Like I mean, I'm recently a
Well,
father. I'm not
if
that
your
young,
children
but
don't really need it,
yeah. But you always say
and
like, yeah, you know what? I can find another solution where I would not burn all those assets and leave it to them, because it would be selfish. Of now, I don't need that much. No, I don't need this. I don't need
yeah,
that.
but still, I think I would be able to convince them.
Yeah, I think, like the solution that I have right now is almost this. Like my dad is a big. He loves farms and he loves nature, etc. And my mom, she's okay with it. She tolerates it, but she needs a certain comfort. Definitely, like high speed internet. She doesn't want to like have chickens running around, and definitely not coming in the house. Like she would be horrified. Like, yeah, go do your chicken stuff and your farming like outside, but I need a nice villa, like a nice comfortable couches. Like it needs to look like a house. And she loves the industrial studio loft kind of things. So that's what I'm trying to achieve for them, because I bought a farm that has that thing. They have some component that they really enjoy. So my dad would be happy, my mom would be happy. So I'm shooting, like I'm trying to steer them that way. And maybe, then hire some help, maybe hire a driver that could serve both of them, maybe all of us. And when they get when driving becomes a challenge, hey, you
So
have
you
a
want to
driver.
create your own little compound.
Exactly. And I think it would end up costing a little less. But
Probably,
it would be
because
less luxurious.
That's another solution. Actually,
Yeah.
is that if, of course, all of these solutions, we're not delusional. You need to have some cash to do that.
True,
but
true.
like it's true that if you can keep your parents with you, but still give them that independence of having their space,
Yeah.
etc., where they can like have family visit them or whatever, where it doesn't affect your day to day stuff. That would be
Ideal.
ideal for
No,
sure.
For sure. Yeah.
For
yeah.
sure.
And what would be your ideal situation when you get old?
Personally, my mom told me something when we had this discussion that that resonated a lot with me, and I think that's the biggest issue. Is that her biggest issue with getting older is the fear of feeling like a burden.
Yeah.
So depending on my situation, because once again, you have 60 years old that are like that need a lot of assistance, and 90-year-old that are like
Totally
running,
fine. Yeah.
every morning. So depending on your situation, your physical situations, and things like that, I think that I would love to stay in whatever environment I choose to be in, if I can pay for it and stuff. But the day I become where I really need assistance, and I feel that I'm a burden, that people are worried for me, that etc., I think I'll cave to whatever works for everyone. Of course, with good intentions, not like okay, go in the cave and wait for your death. But I would not want to be like in my child's home when I know that I'm putting people in a uncomfortable position or things like that. So I think the most important is not to be a burden.
That's very true. And that's the discussion exactly what I told my dad. I said, listen, I'm probably gonna tell my children, listen, just don't worry about me. Put me in a even a cheap one. Don't worry. I don't think I would want to live with my children. Like I have a daughter, like she would be with her husband or her wife. I don't know. You never know. And I would not want to be in her house. And like, I think I would be grumpy because I'm already as is. So if I get older, I'm going to be impossible to live with. If you ask my wife, she would say, yeah, you definitely are. So I don't know. Like I want to have the best of both worlds would be to be independent, but still have some kind of support system around you. And I think that's something I would love to achieve in the farm. And if I could have, because the farm is not too far, I love the setting of like being in nature. And like here, let's be honest, like to have a driver is not that expensive.
No, for
like
sure.
service is life is not expensive. So if you organize and if you play your cards right, by the time you are at that age where you need help, you can master that with not too much money. So and
I think the most important part is to like be able to plan ahead.
Definitely.
So your children won't have to handle any of those issues.
Yeah. sure.
And you know what's funny is that it always comes back to one of the main reasons I came back to Morocco, which I think the most important in all this this issue with the elderly and stuff like that is actually proximity, like
Yeah.
being able to see them at a good, at a decent frequency at least.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
because I see some members of my family when with my grandparents would go abroad and wouldn't see them for 5-6 years. Some of them even longer. Some of them just come back to, unfortunately, have to
bury them.
So I think that would be the saddest thing that could happen to me as a son or as a father is to lose that touch. I think it's important to have proximity.
Good points, yeah.
And and this subject is
depressing.
It's a bit hard because like usually I was kind of looking
around
all along, like when can I like try to
goof around,
but it's
not
it's
gonna
kind
happen.
of serious and it's kind of like but serious in a good
It's
way.
not sad though. It's
No,
not getting old is not sad. Like it's just you need to plan for it, and then it would be smooth.
It's beautiful. Actually.
It's beautiful to get old.
Honestly, like every age has its ups and downs and etc. But I think that's one of the things that I look forward to the most as an elder is that you come to that point where it's almost like you can't really do as much as before, but you're kind of like sit back and see what you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it must be like every day is a spectacle. Every day is a podcast. Every day is a show.
You planted a tree and now you see it grow and produce fruits, etc. Which is just sit back and relax.
That is taking into account that we will live because tomorrow is not promised.
Tomorrow is not promised. And let me finish with this. Actually, very sad, but it resonated with me big time. This guy said, I saw it online. This guy said, where do your parents live? And this guy was from East Coast and his parents lived on the West Coast or whatever, or vice versa. And he said, well, yeah, I live in New York, they live in California. All right, good. So how often do you visit them? How old are they? He said, well, they are...
I saw that one.
They are, I don't know, my dad is 74. I lost my mom, but my dad is 74. Okay, so... life expectancy is, I don't know, whatever, like 79 or 82 or whatever in the US. Okay. So how often do you see them? Well, I see them once a year. So he did the math and he said, so technically you see them once a year, but there is another way to convert this, which is you will see your dad and mom or whatever, your dad 7 more times. You have 7 more times with your dad. That put things in perspective. It's like, oh, yeah, I don't have 7 years. I have 7 times with my dad. So if I spend 2 or 3 days, 7 times 3, 21 days. It's not even a month that I have left with my dad.
Fucking hard, man.
So yeah, 7 years is a long time, but 7 times, it's not that long. So
exactly.
Proximity, that's also one of the main reasons, to be honest, I came back from the US.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the US is fantastic. But 2 things. When you are having vacation in a fantastic location, you're still happy to come back to your crappy apartment because this is you. So same thing. I'm not saying Morocco is crappy, not by any stretch of the imagination, but you might be on vacation in Hawaii and still enjoy
coming back home,
coming back to Meknes or Rabat or Casablanca because it's not Hawaii, but hey, it's your home. And the other thing is, man, your parents are getting older and it's time to... it's time to like show up and be there and spend some quality time,
and that goes to show you not to waste as well. Like there's a lot of things that sound a bit cheesy, like don't go to bed upset and stuff like that. But if you count those times, like 7 last times of having like a moment with someone you love, whether it's your parents, children, whatever. Bro, don't waste it on bullshit, man.
True.
You know, like
true. And like
focus on creating quality
time, quality memories, and think about it not in terms of my parents might still have 10 years to live. But if you only see them once every year, then you only have 10 times left with your parents. So this also like hits you hard and it puts things in perspective. All right, on this good note, I think we gotta close this here. Thank you so much. Don't forget to follow, to subscribe, to like, and
take care of your parents.
Take care of your parents, man.
And children and loved ones.
Yeah.
And dogs.
Just spend quality time with people
And like
you love.
and subscribe.
Money and all this is bad, but don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to
Definitely.
subscribe. Yes, you. Don't forget to subscribe.
Him?
This guy right there.
Yeah,
He watches
subscribe.
all the video. He doesn't even click. Give us a click, man. It's free. It's free.
Where is it? Is it here or here?
Well, I'm not gonna do
Anyway.
that. So just click on it. It's
click
free.
on it, bro.
All right, take it easy,
All
guys.
right.
Bye bye. Ciao.